excited as today work is starting at Botcherby Community Centre to make the kitchen flood resilient. It's been months in the coming and I am one excited Mary. So let's go in and talk to Andrew Bradshaw, shall we? Hello.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt me?
Hi Mary.
Thank you. Can I just a few words with you? And I tell you what, you can go for a tea break.
Thank you very much, Mary.
That's my pleasure.
Hi.
Right, Andrew, you're
Yes.
from Andrew Bradshaw, isn't it?
Yes.
Andrew Bradshaw from RTC
Yes.
Building Company?
Yeah, building preservation. We do basement and structural waterproofing and all forms of building preservation.
And where are you based?
We're based in Blackpool and we cover pretty much the whole of the North West and beyond.
Firstly, I want to say a huge thank you to you and to your company and to everybody that's working here for free to make this kitchen flood resilient. Now, you're obviously working to some design spec that I've given you.
Yeah.
So this is obviously you've been here a
Yeah.
few minutes and you've taken this wall off. Can you tell me a bit about what you're doing today and the overall scheme that you're going to install here?
Absolutely. It's all around the flood resilience. What we're doing is we're doing some work externally. First, we're going to be applying a storm dry masonry protection cream externally on the brickwork, which will waterproof the brickwork and help waterproof it and help prevent the water from coming in. Internally, one of the weakest points in any structure is the juncture between the wall and the floor. So what we will be doing is we'll be exposing that juncture and we'll be filling it with a Unimortar 1 product which will basically waterproof it and help stop the water from coming in. On the floor, what we're planning to do is apply a dry base liquid applied damp-proof membrane which forms as a membrane and helps stop the dampness coming through. So all those are to help stop that dampness coming in. Also, what we're planning to do with the walls is we're using two systems. One of them being the plaster flood system, and obviously the second being what we call an express system. On the plaster system, we'll be applying a damp-resistant plaster on the walls, which basically will help stop the migration of the salts coming through. And the advantage of this product is because of its porous structure, it dries down very quickly. So if it does ever flood again, it'll dry down really quick. On another couple of the walls, we're going to apply what we call this express system, which is basically a waterproof adhesive, again waterproof salt retardant adhesive, which we basically stick plasterboards to the walls using this adhesive. Now, one of the advantages of this system is, and why it's called the express system, is because if it did ever flood again, we can really get the occupants, back in as quickly as possible because it's quite easily repaired.
So
take it off, put it back on, and we're back to square one, which is vital in any sort of flood situation, because the most important thing is getting the occupants back in as quickly as they can, but using the correct products to make sure that they are the correct.
Well, the community centre that we're in today, that you're doing this flood resilient kitchen for, it's nearly 2 years. 2 years. We're now 13th of November, the 5th of December.
So
we're 2 years.
Yeah.
So what you're proposing will enable them, if they do flood again, and we accept that it probably will flood again here, that they can get back in sooner, and it won't be 2 years. Certainly won't be 2 years till they can open their kitchen up again.
No, that's the whole point. It's what we need to do looking forward. I mean, obviously what we're doing is just part of a suite of measures which are necessary in flood protection, flood resilience, etc. But primarily what we're looking at, and the products we're using to the community centre, is to enable us to get if it does flood, get back to normal as quickly as possible, and then people can carry on with their daily lives a lot quicker, and it hopefully doesn't have an impact and a negative impact on the day-to-day sort of life.
Can I ask you, you've made a big hole there.
Made a big hole there.
What are you going to do?
We just like the hole, to be honest with you. We thought that'd be quite nice.
Builders these days.
What we're doing here is we're going to actually build a block wall. Rather than it being a study wall, we're going to actually build a block wall here.
Yes, because this is just a wood.
This is just a study wall, and obviously by building a block wall, it's going to again provide a little bit more resistance to flood water. And then obviously we're going to plaster it both sides with one of the systems was recommended. Every little thing like that just helps actually try and keep that water out as much as possible. The same scenario is over here, between the two rooms. What we're going to do is build a block wall there and do exactly the same scenario there, again to just try and stop that water from coming in.
That's great. Now, while I've still got you, you better show your badge. I especially wanted to use members of the Property Care Association to do work for me because as a homeowner if I want some work done, I'll go to the PCA to find a list of their members. You're a board member, and last year you were chairman, weren't you?
Yes, I've just stood down as national chairman. I've finished my 2-year tenure. I'm also the Northern Regional Chairman as well, and I'm still a current board member, yes.
So can you tell me a bit about the Property Care Association? First of all, I need to know why you, as a company, wanted to join it, and then secondly, the benefits that the public, a member of the public looking for a trusted tradesman, has from the PCA.
Yeah, well first and foremost, the Property Care Association is the only industry's trade body for people who are involved with dampness treatments, timber repair, structural maintenance, flood resilience, invasive weeds, structural waterproofing, and to actually become members, it's quite difficult in the first instance because the criteria is very high. You have to be qualified, you have to attain certain industry qualifications before getting into membership, you have to be trading for at least 2 years. Becoming a member of the PCA also gives you access to all their training, and their training really is second to none. Members of the Property Care Association are far more qualified than a lot of the other companies out there, and the level of workmanship you're going to get from that company is normally far better. Also, like anything, because we're members of the Property Care Association, we have access to arbitration services. So if something did go wrong, then obviously they would help try and sort that out between the client and the customer.
And how about financial robustness? Because quite often, particularly when it comes to things like flood resilience, in the past there have been companies that just come out of nowhere and then disappear. So if you're a member of the flood resilience group, what checks are made by the PCA?
Well, first and foremost, before you actually attain membership, you have to apply. You have to send in accounts which get audited to make sure that you are actually financially viable, which is very, very important for the reasons you've just mentioned, because it's all about sort of longevity. You know, if you're having someone to carry out this kind of work, you want to make sure that they're here for the long run. And that is obviously taken into account when you actually apply for membership. I've got to admit, the PCA is different than a lot of trade associations in the fact that the majority of companies who actually try to get into membership will actually get declined initially because they don't meet the criteria. And this is something which is unheard of. It's not just a case of taking the money and you're a member. If you don't meet the criteria, you're not getting in. It's as simple as that.
So really, from the homeowner's point of view, the hard work of trying to find a trusted tradesman has been done for us already. Absolutely. By the Property Care Association.
Absolutely. And then if you log on to their webpage, it's property-care.org. There is a section where you can access contractors, specialists in any of the fields that we operate in to find a professional contractor in that area who is able to look after them.
And that's why I'm so pleased that so many Property Care Association members have got involved with this with this project, because it's given me peace of mind to know that they're trusted and rated companies, and of course they're backed by the government Trustmark scheme as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We're all members of Trustmark, which is a government endorsed standard. And to be honest with you, any Property Care Association member is always looking to better themselves, always looking to do that little bit more training, to actually be able to offer a better service than they're doing, and hopefully it gives that reassurance to the consumer, to the end user that what we're doing is right. We're recommending the right products. We're actually specifying the right systems, and we're implementing them in the correct and professional manner.
Well, that's great. I'm going to come back and keep sort of doing a time lapse to see this work progress. And can I just ask something, that you get rid of that hole?
Yes,
Oh.
go on then. For you, Mary.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Andrew. See you soon. So Andrew, I've just walked in and found all these channels having you've already plastered, so what's going on?
Yeah, what we found here, Mary, is obviously the electricians, when they were asked to put everything above 1.2, unfortunately they've not done these areas. Now in a situation like this, it's not worth taking the risk. So while we're here, what we've done is we've channeled it out, we've lifted all the wires above 1.2, and we're going to plaster it in while we've got the products to do so, and then obviously the electrician can then come in and then reroute everything after we finish.
Because the rest of the kitchen has all got the wires coming down.
They have, yeah, everything else had been done, but we just noticed that they just probably forgot to do this one. But in these instances, it's not worth taking the risk. It's better to be safe than sorry, so the best thing to do is do it now while we're in this position.
So there's some advice here for anybody who's thinking about doing this and using the Highline plaster or making your home flood resilient, to make sure beforehand, we're learning lessons here so you don't have to make sure that all the wires are coming down and not coming up to above the highest flood level that you've got in your house. That's such an important measure to take, and that's why I'm glad that Andrew has spotted this now before we've gone any further. So remedial works can take place now to put it back to how it is in the rest of the room. Thank you, I'm glad you spotted it. So I'm with Clementine from Safeguard Europe, and we're going to talk about the Highline plaster that has been used in the kitchen. Now, your company has very kindly donated the plaster to us, and obviously for the purposes of the viewers who are looking to make their homes flood resilient, can you tell me a bit about the plaster and why it's good for this kind of work?
Sure thing. So we specially designed this plaster so that it's resistant to damp and salts, which means that when a property is flooded, it will retain its strength and dimensions. And once the water has gone, the plaster can just be wiped down, cleaned, and left in place. So that's the main kind of benefit of this plaster. It's like, unlike sort of gypsum type plasters where you'd have to take out the plaster and replace, it's going to take a long time. This can just be hosed down and just left there.
So can you sanitise it? Can you use some sanitizer?
Yes, just like normal sanitizer, whatever you'd use to wash down any kind of surface after a flood. You can just spray it, hose it down and leave it to dry, and you don't have to sort of take off the plaster. It's also designed to be very highly breathable, which is necessary when you've been flooded and you need to let your walls dry out as quickly as possible.
So you put a dehumidifier and fan in the room as you would normally?
Yes, as normal.
But the plaster will just dry out?
Yeah, the plaster can stay on the wall and just dry out, and that will maintain its properties throughout multiple floods.
So that's a huge benefit of it, because most flood victims have told me, and of course I've been flooded, so I know that the worst part of being flooded is the recovery.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've got to move out while all the plaster's knocked off and the place is dried. With this, when the flood's gone away, we can just literally sanitise it, get some dehumidifiers in there and carry on.
Yeah, you won't even need to redecorate really. You can sort of leave it as a bare surface. We have a specially designed white skin plaster based on lime, So it just gives a nice white finish. So if that's the colour you want, you won't even need to repaint.
So it's quite a rustic finish,
yes,
isn't it? So that's one sort of bit of advice to perhaps somebody that's plastering it.
Yes.
I heard you talking to the plasterers just now. What kind of advice can you give to somebody that's perhaps thinking of using this?
So I'd recommend to leave a nice open poured finish. That's the way you get the high breathability. So don't try and get that mirror smooth finish that you would with normal skin plasters.
And what about if somebody wants to paint over it? What kind of paint can you use? Obviously you can't use a sort of a silk.
No, you'd want to use some sort of matte emulsion paint, something very highly breathable that's going to let water vapour pass through.
And it's easy to paint on top of?
Yes, yeah, it's very easy. It's white, so it's a good base to paint onto.
Is there anything else about the Safeguard Europe materials that people could think of using for making their properties resilient to flooding? Other materials?
Yes, so we have a masonry protection cream which can be applied externally to the building, which resists water. So you can apply that to the outside of your building and it will just help stop as much water from getting into your brickwork, and then will aid drying out afterwards. So you actually get a faster drying out period.
So you would advise people to do some mortar maintenance before you apply that?
Absolutely, yes. You want to repoint as much as possible, fix any cracks or gaps that you have in your brickwork or masonry and pointing. And we have a specially designed repointing additive specifically for flood-prone properties.
And that's another Safeguard?
Yes, yeah.
So just for purposes of the camera, can you sort of slowly name the product?
Sure thing.
So people, because I know what I do on YouTube is I'm frantically writing things down and have to replay. So if you could just do a bit of product placement for me, for people that are wanting to do this.
For internally, we would recommend our damp resistant plaster. It's dry zone damp resistant plaster. As a skim finish, we've got the dry zone highline finishing plaster, which is the white finish. Externally, we have storm dry masonry protection cream and storm dry repointing additive. Those are sort of the main products to recommend here.
And where can people buy them?
They can buy them directly from us. We have a website. You can buy products on Amazon as well, and Wix stores, various places.
And your website address?
It's safeguardeurope.com.
That's wonderful. Anything else you want to tell me about it?
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure people watching will find that very helpful.
Sure thing.
Thanks very much.
So Clementine and Andrew, we're here, and this is the rustic finish that you were talking about just now when I talked to you. And can you explain a bit again as to why it's...
we want to leave the finish as sort of open forward as possible to allow as much water vapour to pass through as possible, so you can let your wool dry down quickly after a flood. So you don't want to get a sort of mirror smooth shiny finish, you want to leave it quite rough.
And what advice would you give to the homeowner then when they're thinking of perhaps decorating over the top of this?
Well, I mean, obviously, the one of the advantages with this finish is it could actually be left as it is if they wanted to do that. But obviously, you know, applying a water-based emulsion is really straightforward. Apply it over the top. Again, using a water-based emulsion, it's breathable. It allows the water to breathe as well. So obviously, in the effect of a flood, it does help it also dry down, rather than using a vinyl or a silk sort of finish paint.
So in this kitchen, we've used two different interventions. We've used the flood repairable here and the flood resilient here. Can you both tell me a bit about the ethos behind flood repairable? Because some people might not want to do flood resilient, but flood repairable can be quite useful, can't it?
Yes. So here we have a plasterboard system. So essentially, this is just attached to the wall with damp and salt resistant adhesive. And once the flood has happened, you can literally just rip out this plasterboard and replace it, which is why the plasterboard is placed horizontally instead of vertically on the wall. So you're just placing it up to that flood height, so it's very easy to rip out and replace.
And so what kind of plaster will you put over that?
On this wall, we're going to use a normal gypsum plaster finish. Because obviously it's a repairable wall rather than necessarily using the highline finish, which will dry down breathable. It's just another alternative system, and the objective is to basically, once it's flooded, it's easily repairable. We can get in, replace it really quickly, and hopefully get the occupants back up and running as soon as possible.
And that's something the surveyor suggested, isn't it? That we use different kinds of interventions. So we've got the flood resilient one side, and this one, literally, the whole thing can just be ripped off. It's what we call a sacrificial method, literally sacrificial plasterboard, rip it off, put another one back on, plaster, and get on. And it's a day's job, isn't it? Or less than a day's job, really. Yes, well, that's great. Thank you both very much.
Pleasure.
Right, I'm with Simon Crowther from Flood Protection Solutions, and as you can see, we're in the almost finished kitchen. We're just waiting for the floor to be put down on Monday. But Simon has kindly given us this puddle sucker, which actually is very heavy. So just be aware of that. It's very heavy. And Simon, I'd be really grateful if you could tell me why you're so anxious that I should have a puddle sucker for the community centre.
Well, I think generally in flood defence there's three different types of pump. You can either go for an engine-driven pump, which you wouldn't want to use inside for obvious reasons with carbon monoxide. There's a submersible pump or a puddle pump. Many people go and buy a submersible pump, but the problem with those is you can't use them in low levels of water because the motors will burn out. So after using it for a short amount of time, your pump will die and you end up with nothing. Whereas a puddle pump is specially designed to suck to really low levels of water. So in a building like this where you're having flood defence measures fitted but water may still seep in, a puddle pump is ideal because it can actually suck to a depth of just 1 millimetre, so it almost leaves the floor dry. There just is literally a puddle on the floor and it's sucking the water away. You could run a pipe out of the window and just any water that came in, get it straight back out again and try and keep the level in here as low as possible. They're absolutely fantastic, these Stroomy pumps, and they come with a 3-year warranty as well.
Goodness me, so this pipe here, you just fit to that with a screwdriver?
Yeah, you'd use a Jubilee clip, fit the pipe, and then put the pipe out the window.
Throw it out of the window here, and so the idea, we acknowledge with this project that flood water will get in here. Because of the resilient measures, we know that they will dry very quickly, but any residual water can literally be pumped out with this pipe, put out of the window, and again, the idea behind that is get back in sooner, and it will do so much less damage if we've got a puddle sucker up and running. And Simon, I'm very, very grateful for this for you, for using it, and of course this will now be on YouTube and people will be able to know where to get the puddle sucker from.
Well, we created a site, floodandwaterpumps.co.uk, basically because I visit so many properties across the country and realised that a lot of people had the incorrect water pump that wasn't going to work in practice as they hoped. So we tried to make the best quality pumps available with expert advice as well. And one of our favourites is the puddle sucker. We love working with communities, so I'm happy we can support you with this project.
Well, thank you very much. When I was flooded, I had a pump from a fish pond to pump me out, and it really was a waste of space.
Yeah.
It took forever. I wish these were about 17 years ago when I was this deep in water. So thank you very much.
That's
much
okay.
Appreciated. I haven't seen the kitchen yet in its finished state, so let's go in and have a look. I'm quite excited about this. Oh, wow, wow. Mary's got kitchen envy. Isn't this amazing? Look, we've got really trendy tiles, and please notice that we've been using flood resilient plaster and adhesive and grout. This is a steel plan kitchen here, so that it literally can be flooded, washed out, sanitised, dried and get back on with it. So we thought every single step of the way. You've seen what the builders did, and this is the finished result. Everything's been geared up to be flooded, but to get back sooner. And this is just amazing. I'm so pleased. Which has been amazing. Could you, if you could put the barrier up, that'd be really great. Thank you. So you can
We'll leave the cork in.
Yeah.
All they need to do is put the cork back.
Right. Okay.
So we just put the barrier in that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Just got to slide it down level because there's only a 5mm gap.
Okay.
That's it. There we go.
Probably do all this in 15 seconds.
I've had, many practice.
That's not quite, that's
There we
it.
go.
Then we twist.
Twist.
Okay.
A butler company, and they can withstand freezing. And so it's very robust. They also add another layer of security, and they can be fitted with that has 1188. And the thing that makes it hard doors, it's got, if you know when you open your own door, they get normally a shell.
Yep.
And what we've done for the project is
This fantastic.
yeah, so
It's not what I was expecting at all. I was expecting it to be all steel, but it's not.
it is steel.
There we are.
Well, because like certainly the flood house at BRE,
Yes.
it's all about.
Yes, well this actually
Right.
has, because it's stainless steel,
Okay.
it can be literally flooded
Right.
and sanitised and carried on.
Washed out.
And carried on. And that was my whole idea.
Morning. Hi, I'm Peter Lowe.
Hello, Peter. Nice to meet you. So you've been working a lot on this. I helped put the